My name is Arianna Mack, and I'm a junior public health major working on a combined master's in health promotion with 2 minors in global health studies and medical humanities and a certificate in global readiness. What would you do if I asked you to humanize Black people? Would you listen after I tell you about all the ways in which you don't? I'll start with myself. I was asked to contribute to a recording of a campus tour in March of 2020 when everything transitioned online. My particular segment covered residence halls on campus and their amenities. In the comment section, there was a comment that reads,
I used to love Miami, graduated in 1980. No love lost. Might as well be in the Bronx, not Oxford. It's your skin color, not your grades or SAT score that now gets you in.
I would like to remind you that in this video, I only talked about residence halls. And as a result, my value as a student was questioned. And it wasn't because he had any proof that I was not well academically suited to attend Miami, but it was because I'm Black. So, in the white man's eyes, of course I wasn't accepted into Miami as an indication of my merit. I had to be filling a quota. That is how random racism is, because my anonymity to this white man had him make the judgment that I am unqualified because all Black people are incapable of intelligence and scholarship. Why does the color of my skin determine my qualifications to attend this university? Why is it that I am not allowed to have any other characteristics outside of being Black? Why is this the case for every Black person I know? You see, there is a prominent perception that Black people are lazy, and there is much opposition to subsidizing that said laziness. But when Black people pursue education, they're stealing spots away from those who deserve it. And when they get hired at a job, their hire was just to fill a quota. Then when Black people ask for anyone to invest in their communities or ask them to stop divesting in their programs and education, they're begging for handouts. Yet when they build their own communities, programs, and infrastructure, they are unable to receive a loan, and in cases like Tulsa, Oklahoma, they're massacred and lynched. If you don't see the pressure on Black people to assimilate, but you want to control the education and wealth Black people have access to, then you are a hypocrite. We are both victims to a system of racism that refuses to let Black people have power. So let's talk about it. The hypocrisy in the treatment of Black people is rooted in dehumanization. Dehumanization occurs in stages and starts with assimilation. Assimilation is the absorption of a person into the culture or tradition of a population or group. It's the intention of making a person as similar to another cultural group outside of their own. Eurocentric features, values, and functions are preferred in this society, whether it's through media or academia or even how beauty is perceived. So, for Black people, this looks like being told to tame our hairstyles so that we can better fit into the workplace, or not playing our music in certain spaces. Assimilation is actually the exact opposite of inclusion. Instead of embracing qualities or ideas and having it contribute to society, there's an erasure of an entire culture. For example, there's a difference between getting a person acclimated with a new language to be functional in a new place and stripping them of their native tongue. Well, Black people have been stripped of so many things in the name of assimilation. We have been stripped of knowing our history. We have been stripped of teaching our history. We have been stripped of equal pay or even adequate pay at that. We have been stripped of expressing our ideas or being creative, and we have been stripped of being anything except what the white man tells us to be in that moment, or else we are limited in how much we can participate in society. In my case, I was stripped of my ability to just be a student talking about the school I attend. Instead, I was stereotyped by someone I have never met because I'm Black and assumed unqualified. This case demonstrates 2 different folds. The first demonstrating the pressure on Black people to assimilate, and the second fold comes from the ideology behind stereotyping, which goes beyond prejudice, bias, and ultimate racism, but dehumanization of Black people. Have you ever said you weren't surprised when you hear about crimes committed by Black men in the news? Have you ever said you weren't surprised about a crime committed by a white man? Or have you ever said that there are higher Black on Black crime rates than the rate of police killing Black people? Yet have you ever described white crime as white on white crime? Or have you ever called a Black person protesting a monkey? Or have you ever quantified someone's qualities by their race? For example, I'm smart for a Black girl. I'm pretty for a Black girl. I am well behaved for a Black girl. These statements just quantify by being a Black girl instead of just qualities I can possess, like any other person that may not be Black. Othering Black people to the point of dehumanizing them is not a new concept. It's an inherited ideology. Scholarly European literature in the West had race and nation derived from the same concept as lineage or stock, as in animal stock. Race then developed into a scientific theory that formed a hierarchy of people as a result of thinking that people of color had to be different species from being the same as white people. Our own history of American law was founded on Black people being 3/5 of a person. There is a pipeline here between assimilation and systemic racism. Systemic racism intends to maintain Blacks and other minorities in inferior positions on the basis of race, achieved through the discriminatory practices in almost every institution in our society. It's discrimination in what homes we have access to. It's discrimination in the quality of education at our schools. It's the laws that disproportionately affect Black people. It's redlining Black people so that they can't get homes in the neighborhoods they desire. It's intimidation practices to keep Black people from voting. And it's gatekeeping who has access to quality education. It's using a Black woman's tissues to advance the entire body of cancer research against her knowledge and never personally compensating her. It's the history of America. Now let's bring it here today. Systemic racism is rearing its ugly head in front of us through the current pandemic. The CDC hospitalization and death rates report that Black people are almost 3 times more likely to be hospitalized for COVID than their white counterparts, and almost twice as likely to die from it. This is because socioeconomic status, lack of access to healthcare, exposure to the virus in the workplace as an essential worker, and misdiagnosis of diseases that could lead to unknown underlying conditions are all results of a system that is fixed against Black people and literally harms them. Black people are perceived as burdens, used as resources, then treated as a threat. We are seen to be leeches on society when we may be on welfare after historically being at a socioeconomic disadvantage. Then we're exploited in a pandemic as essential workers and as sources of creativity in all forms of media. Yet, when we're sleeping in our homes, or jogging in our neighborhoods, or entering our homes with a lunch, we are killed. If society cared about Black people just for being human instead of hating them or exploiting them, if society just thought Black people were people and thought that was enough to be worthy of living, of receiving education without being questioned of value based on just skin color, then we could reach it. We could reach a society that humanizes each other. So, what is there to do but abolish the standards on Black people that come from a place of wanting to erase our culture? Being human should be enough. It should be enough to have rights. It should be enough to be respected. But for Black people, it's not enough. Thank you.